Welcome, everyone. It's a Thursday night local soccer show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Stevie P from Milan Weekly Podcast, and we're bringing you the local soccer show, guys. Tonight, we have a fantastic guest. We're going to touch a different area of local soccer, more at the club level, and how they can use social media to up their game on their side by someone who, is doing a fantastic job, young, entrepreneur, creative, and using social media to his benefit. Also, talking local soccer with him because he does have a soccer background and did play the sport. So we love picking the brains of our guests that we bring on to the local soccer show. Guys, this would not be possible without the help and the sponsorship of Evangelista Sports, guys. Please check them out. They're the mecca of calcio gear and soccer gear, football gear here in Montreal. If you're in Little Italy, check them out, 6821 Boulevard Saint Laurent. Visit our beautiful Little Italy here in Montreal. If you are outside of Montreal and in another beautiful province in this country or in the United States of America, please, guys, check them out, evangelistasports.com. They have everything there on their website for you to order. And for all you soccer clubs out there, check out Evangelista Sports for your kits, gear. Parents, check out for your shoes. It's time. It's time. We could smell the grass. Unfortunately, the kids don't play on grass anymore, but we could smell something. And it's the kids going out and starting to play outside, which is always a beautiful thing. And we know that summer is rolling around. So without further ado, guys, Presidente is in the background. Let's go. Guys, welcome to the show. And everybody who's going to pop in is going to recognize him. It's Brandon Brini. Brandon, you're a creative entrepreneur, labeled the godfather of the panini. Brandon, I want to thank you very much and welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor being a Milan fan to be a part of this. So I'm excited to chat Calcio, my first love before Panini, of course.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Good, man, Brandon. I'm really happy to have you on. Like I said, we do this local soccer show. I'm a parent. Presidente Marcello's a parent. We love the sport. We care about the local soccer scene, but we need like young guys like you who've gone through this and have gone through the whole process of local soccer and get another perspective. And now, what you're bringing and what you're doing on social media to start educating some of these local soccer clubs of how they can bring their game to the next level, right? But for those who don't know you, Brandon, tell everybody a bit about yourself and how you got into the game of soccer.
yeah. So growing up, born and raised in RDP. My dad was a big Inter fan, actually. And until I was 5 years old, I was an Inter fan. And then his family from Italy came here and they got me the famous Kaka jersey that you see in the background over there. And immediately fell in love with how he played soccer. And since then, my dad coached me until I was about 16 years old. And every year was a different journey, from house league to double A to the heartbreak of not making it to triple A for with RDP to having to go to Repentigny in a French community to winning the Quebec Cup 2 years in a row there, to going to nationals twice, to winning bronze at nationals, to my dad winning coach of the year of all of Quebec, to then retiring himself. And I moved to Ahunsik. Did my two last seasons there, and then at 19 years old, I moved to Toronto, and then kind of went to university there. Was around their soccer team, but I decided to hang up the boots at that point and focus more on, media and stuff like that. But soccer's always been there. Whenever I'm feeling stressed or, you just need some fresh air. It's not going to the gym. It's not eating a hamburger. It's going to the soccer field alone and just trying to hit the crossbar or something simple like that. So, soccer's always been the first passion. The goal is always to be a pro soccer player. like most of us growing up, but there was a lot of infrastructure missing for guys my age for sure. To give people like a bit of like context, I was the same age group as Balu Tabla. We played together a bit, and he was the only guy who made it out of my age group to somewhat go pro. He kind of took a hit in his career, but yeah, soccer's always been there for me. Repping Canada, Italia, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure, and it's good. I like to have the guest go through this sped up version of his life, but I like to pick your brain about that. And the first thing again, which really interests me, because I'm like your dad. I coach my son, and I want to know how that was for you. Did you feel added pressure? Did you feel like it was something like of a bonding experience? How did you find that in the younger portions of your career?
Well, until it gets a bit serious, you're not really conscious of those effects. But starting at like the AAA level, you start to realize the impact it has on the team, the way your teammates see you, the way your dad has to treat you. He has to kind of forget that you're his son and vice versa, and you kind of have a coach relationship. But my dad was always more of my friend in that sense than like a strict father who disciplined me. Sometimes he did, despite having a great game. And even my teammates would tell him like, "Why are you taking him off?" But he had to evenly play everyone, right? We were a good team. We won the treble one year, so like everyone on the team was top notch, and nine guys got snatched from the Impact Academy that year. So it's like we had a high caliber team. That's the year you won Coach of the Year, and he has to make certain calls sometimes to keep everything even, to keep other parents satisfied that he's not playing his son too much. But there's not once we got into a fight or anything. Like it was always good, and I learned a lot from him. And he would always, like, I knew right away if I was playing a good game or if I needed to like shape it up, because he would just look at me a certain way, and I knew, like he'd give me the nod, and he's like, and when he said nothing, it means everything was going fine, which I preferred because I had my coach after that would yell nonstop the whole game. It was one of those, like an
Yeah,
Antonio Conte versus a Max Allegri.
yeah.
You want a coach who's kind of there for you versus a coach who's like kind of just yelling at you all the time.
Yeah, I know. And as you get on with age, there, and I'm an age myself. Obviously, I do with the white beard, but for us, it was no news is good news. So nothing said, meaning everything was going good. Something
Exactly.
being said, trust me, you understand what was being said, and you were going to correct yourself. But so you had this really great relationship with your dad, and we'll give him a shout out too. He won Coach of the Year, and we'll probably have him on the show. Uh, but Brandon, another question, and something that you did as well, and you mentioned, you grew up in RDP, but then at a certain point you had to leave. How was that experience where you went from a very, again, I'm from RDP as well, born and raised, lived here my whole life, whether we like it or not. It's a very Italian Anglophone community, going to Repentigny, which we know is a very Francophone community, like you said. How was that transition? Because we're seeing that a bit more often, and I'm not saying RDP to somewhere else. It's just the movement now is tremendous because of the licensing program. People are moving around the city. How could how, if you could just give everybody that experience, because that must have been a little bit of a shock as well.
Yeah, for sure. It all stemmed back to what high school I had to choose to go to. And on the cards was VMC and Pearson as the English schools. The Impact Academy was starting that first year for me, but I knew it wasn't going to be sustainable. I knew it was going to be whoever got chosen the first year was going to get cut the next. And that's exactly what happened, because they just took whoever to make the program start and get more seriously as time gone on with funding. So I decided to go to Collège Saint-Jean Vianney, which is on going the French private school. They were building the soccer plex, and I was like, that's not a bad idea. I could train at night. They had like a Sport Sud program going on. Um, and then my coach over there actually coached in Repentigny. And I spoke zero French at this point. I'm 13 years old. I have no idea what's going on. I'm like laughing at anything and everything because I don't know anything, just
And
trying
that's
to
a
fit
big.
in.
And sorry, just to give people some context who don't know, Saint Jean Vianney is a French first high school, right?
Yeah,
It's
pure
fully
French.
French, right? So
Yeah.
tip my hat to you on that as well, because that's a big move.
Yeah, that changed my life for the best because if I didn't go there, I would have never gone to the Repentigny because my coach over there, he coached the Repentigny U18 at the time and I was 14, U14. And he saw right away I had it and he's like, go try out. The coach called me up. I went to try out, didn't say a word for the first three tryouts, made the team, but it was tough because like I couldn't really connect with the guys. Like Repentigny is not like Montreal French. It's like almost farmer French. So it's like they're very Quebecer, which was nothing wrong with that. It's just to get in. But after a good 6 months, like we were brothers, and at that time it was weird how the Quebec League worked, the AAA league, because if you won the season, it didn't mean anything. You had to win the Quebec Cup to go to nationals. So we won the Quebec Cup, but we finished like fourth or fifth in the season, and that was we won bronze in Vaughan, and that was a next level experience. But what really set the difference from me leaving RDP is when the game that concluded we wouldn't make AAA, because that year we were only 6 teams in our division, so only one team made AAA from Concordia, and it ended up being a Hansig, and that pretty much concluded my spell there. And I was the only one who was like angry, crying, furious. Everyone else was like just another day at the field. And from that team, I'm the only one who went AAA after. So it kind of just showed, how serious people took it versus ourselves, versus other
Yeah,
people.
yeah, and that's a big thing now. And Brandon, I don't know if you're aware now. Now things have changed quite a bit, right? So
Yeah.
I fall in the same category as you. Uh, we had to make AAA. We weren't just signed up for AAA. We went through the dog days of AA, and then there were more than 6 teams when I played, and you had to make it, right. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was first, second, and third. So
Mm.
that for me is important. I know they changed it. Right now it's kind of that pay to play mentality, right. uh, Talk about a bit, you talked a little bit about that journey where you didn't make it, and it was very frustrating for you. I remember my journey. I'll never forget it. Do you think that it's a mistake that they made, where you don't have to qualify for to play at a higher level, example for like AAA? Because you just told everybody your journey. I can tell you, I remember my journey. I will bet you, if we talk in another 20 years, my son won't remember his journey, because there's no journey.
Yeah, no, for sure. My journey was based off of real life stuff, like MLS style, Serie A style, Serie A B style, because that's what soccer's been like for forever. But in North America, it's taking a hit in the sense that it's really monetarily focused. It's focused on getting like hockey almost. The rich kids play at the highest level because they could afford it, and that's a bit of the problem right now because soccer is the world's game, and you're looking at Team Canada. Out of the starting 11, and there's like 3 white guys, and those 3 white guys are Latino or another origin, right? So it's kind of showing like where Edmonton, Alberta, Vancouver, Ontario, where they're all at with their development systems. They're choosing the best of the best on the academy system. And in Quebec, we're a bit behind where we're focusing on still city teams and trying to develop like that. And then we just have the Impact Academy, which is a bit up and down here and there. They just got the CF team back, like the U23s, whatever it is. And like it's crazy because Patrick Friolet, who's the coach there now, he was the coach of my Concordia team when I was 13. So he climbed the ranks just as much as I did, to say. And it's like he's there now, and it's like that's how behind we were. Because if he's there now, that means we didn't have any coaches, and we still kind of don't. Because it's tough to make a living to be a coach here to dedicate your whole life to it. Like Mike Vitulano was a coach too at one point when I was 10 years old. And, he left mid-season because he knew right away he got a better job with the Quebec League. So it's like there's not enough supply and there's a lot of demand for good coaches. And it just ends up being parents of kids who, my dad's a full-time engineer, but he's just really good at soccer. And it was a good passion because I was there. I don't think if I wasn't there, he wouldn't give two things. He wouldn't even have showed up once.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. Again, and it's something again as myself, and we talk about Marcello too. We're volunteers first, right? But we are volunteers, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie to anybody because my kid is playing. It would be very hard for me to justify the time that I need to give in and that I will give in if my son wasn't there. It's very difficult, and for people who do give the time and don't have a family connection to it, I tip my hat because it's a big, big endeavor. And there's a lot of pressure now
Hmm.
because not only are you coaching, you're looking at licensing, you're looking at, you need a certain license for a certain level of coach that you have to be. You need some sort of knowledge of the game too. Not everybody played. Not everybody knows exactly what needs to be done to develop these kids. But it's something that the parents who are paying now a pretty penny to have their kids play are starting to demand, right? So uh, you also mentioned that you had moved to Toronto. Now that move to Toronto, was it anything to do with soccer or more a lifestyle move or a lifestyle change?
That was purely for university. Basically, I went to Vanier, studied communications. Next step, like everyone else, was Concordia journalism. And the first question on the exam was, who's the president of India? And right there, I knew it wasn't for me. And I had applied to Ryerson University, which is now Toronto Metropolitan University. Um, and they had the only sport media program in all of Canada. And it was a bachelor too, because usually it's a focused deck. So I was like, well, why not apply? I visited the school. I was like, this is it. They were sponsored by CBC and TSN. They had all the equipment. I was like, I always wanted to. The next move was that at 10 years old, I kind of knew I wasn't going to be a pro soccer player. So I was kind of like, well, the next best thing is to be a commentator. That's what I kind of tried to go for. Um, and that's why I moved to Toronto for the 5 years that I was there. I did end up playing soccer there in a like an adult league called the North York Soccer League that my good friends the Bello Bros created. We're also Italian creators, and that's a cool league. Play on grass, 11 aside. They have a good social media going, so that was a fun time. And there's some competition in the league, some Futsal Canada players there. Like it's not your typical beer league where you
It's
can
not
go
a
there.
beer league. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, you can't
competitive
go there
adult league.
drunk and play. Like you're
Yeah.
running like good amount. Yeah,
Yeah, anytime you're 11 aside, you're running a good amount, and you can't go there intoxicated or like you said, looking for just a walk in the park type of league. It's pretty serious.
for sure.
Just before we move on, there, I like to pick your brain about coaching. So you did say that you coached a little bit. How was your experience coaching? Because not every player is gonna have a fantastic experience coaching.
I really liked it. So I got to coach when I was in secondary four. I got to coach the secondary twos, which is kind of unheard of. You don't really get to coach when you're a student, especially when you're 16. But like at my school, I was kind of one of the best players to ever touch the ground there, so they kind of trusted me. Um, and it was cool because we went to the finals, whether it was futsal or six-a-side outside. Um, and like I gained the trust of the players right away because of the repertoire I had. I think that helped a lot. Like seeing that I went to nationals, I won bronze. I also went to Lyon in France to train with the academy for a bit. I was training with guys like who are pro now, Hussein Awar, Maxwell Cornet, like those guys were there, Sharky. So when those guys are your age and you're training with them, you get a bit of reputation, and they trusted me, and I enjoyed it. It was cool coming up against coaches who are like twice your age and they don't understand how they're losing to you. And these guys are getting paid full time to coach a school program. So, and it's kind of cool because I took a different approach. There were tactics for sure, but at 16 years old, you can only know so much. But I was more of a tactician than a skilled, fast-paced dribbler. More of a Pirlo than a Ronaldinho on the field. Um, but it was definitely more about gaining that unity, because I always say the best teams are the ones who are always most united. We see it time and time again. Argentina winning the World Cup, Italy winning the Euros, Napoli winning today, Milan winning last year, Inter winning the year before. Like those teams, their unity is what makes them so good, because they fight for each other. And that's kind of the message I try to get across. And when people buy into it, it works. Like it'll never fail. And that's kind of what I learned from my dad too, because he was good at giving speeches. He never freaked out. He never broke a clipboard in half, kind of thing. I kind of just tried to mimic that too. Sometimes I get excited on the sideline, but it was always more of like that excitement that, oh, I would have finished that, because it was like it was a sitter. You could have put that in the net,
Yeah.
but you have to learn to like accept that they're not always gonna finish what you think, and then sometimes they sort of surprise you and score a crazy goal.
Yeah,
Or
I
make a
get where you're
crazy save,
coming. I get where you're coming from, because sometimes I need to take a walk. I like to take a walk on the sideline
Yeah,
sometimes, and I just continue walking. I have to remember that they're 9, and I have to
yeah,
remember that they're
exactly.
10. Right. Uh, Another thing, you touched on unity, and you said you went to the nationals with your team at Repentigny, and finishing third there. How was that experience? Because the nationals is something, not everybody, especially playing local soccer, not everybody's gonna have a chance to do that. There's two windows for local soccer teams to attend the nationals. Talk to people about who don't know that experience, what that experience was for you and for your teammates, and how that created a bond for you guys.
Yeah, the nationals is one of those feelings you'll remember forever. Just from qualifying for it, the big weekend, Thanksgiving weekend at Bois de Boulogne, you gotta play the semifinal and final back to back days. Personally, myself, I scored a goal that was behind the halfway line. Like I just decided to take a rocket, almost like a goal kick. The sun was in the goalie's face. He had a concussion helmet on. I said, you know what? The chances of him seeing this are probably slim. Went right through his hands, pulled my hamstring, and I was done for the tournament. But I did my part. And my teammates, they kind of did the rest of the load the day after. We ended up winning, went to nationals, won bronze. It was all new to us. Repentigny had never qualified for the nationals in any category, and we took home bronze. We unfortunately lost in the semifinals in a shootout, 0-0. We lost in a shootout to Alberta. That was devastating, because the penalties we missed should have gone in, but it happens. And we would have won the finals. That's another thing too, because even the Ontario coach came up to us and he's like, the TFC recruits there, they wanted 5 of our guys. So it just goes to show how good we were. The year after, we were U15, we went back for it. But now you're playing U16 nationals, because now I think there's nationals for every age group. But before that, it was only even number age groups. So it was 14, 16, 18. So you only had 3 chances. We eliminated in the quarterfinals the previous national champions, which was Longueuil, a year older, like out of thin air, 3-2 in overtime. That was one of the craziest nights of all of our lives. And then we ended up winning the whole tournament. A year younger, going to nationals a year younger was a bit tougher that time, but we finished 5th out of 12, which was still something cool to do. But thanked by Ontario 6-0, because 16 to 15, there's a big size difference in kids. But that was probably brought us even closer, because we had to really fight for that one, right? So it's a good learning experience for, like, not just soccer and sports. Like, yes, you enjoy all those moments, but also for life. Like, what's the whole point of life? Why do you put on your shin pads? Why do your parents travel? Why do they bring you to the games? Why do you go all the way across the world, miss school, travel, go to Camp Loops? all these things. It's kind of puts it into perspective how beautiful the beautiful game could be, you know.
Yeah, and it's very important, and it's something that again I try, and the people around me try to. Uh, I like to go by this. I want to be able to develop good and great soccer players, but I also want to develop good people, right? And I
Yeah,
think local soccer and local sports in itself, done right by the right people, you're not only encouraging athletes, you're also encouraging better, members of the community. Accountability, which we've lost now, logic, which we've lost now, unfortunately, in society a bit. I think it's really important, and again, you hit the hammer on the nail, and it's amazing. I had to ask you one question about the Nationals, and you were able to retell that story almost instantaneously with fine detail, without any problems, right? So if I
yeah,
would ask you what you did last week, you probably might have a little bit of a harder time giving me that much detail. So that's how important sports is, and it's a big business, right? And that's gonna it's a good segue to what you do, how you took this turn and how you decided to take social media and make it for yourself, because it's turning for everybody, and it's also turning for these local soccer clubs. So if you could tell everybody, Brandon, how did you get into this social media and this whole you're going around and you're using your social media power to show people different restaurants, foods that you enjoy. How did you get into this area of your life?
yeah. It all starts with when I made the decision to kind of become a commentator. Uh, my dad used to ask me to practice like my English, to write recaps of all of my games, and then to recap a Serie A game that I watched on the weekend, like in 4 lines. And then that kind of got me watching games nonstop. And then at 16 years old, I started watching YouTube. I started watching like creators like the Sidemen, F2, the Skillers, and I decided to start doing my own crossbar challenges on YouTube as a 16-year-old. Had no idea what I was doing, the worst at it. But I picked up the camera, and that's what got it all started. And then when I decided to actually, what really clinched it for me was I went to the Euros in 2016 in France, and I was at the game where Iceland beat England, and I decided to vlog it on my GoPro, and that vlog got 1,000 views, and all the views came from Iceland. So it kind of showed me the power of the internet. How I had no idea what I was doing. It
Yeah.
made no sense. There was no story there. It was just me holding my GoPro with audio shit. Nothing makes sense. But I just put it on the internet and people viewed it, and I'm like, well, if I could just give it that much effort like other people do on the internet, it could work. And then when Instagram started, like I got on Instagram late compared to everyone, and then COVID really made it worthy for me because I was studying to be on television and work in television. So it's media, but it's a different type of media. It's not really social media based. A lot of my teachers weren't too fond of social media. It's not gonna last. I don't know what this is. And then COVID and TikTok really blew up. And then I was living with two other guys. We're all in the same program. One decided to start making healthy food recipes. Blew up on TikTok one day, got 5 million views, and I was helping him film his videos. And I'm like, well, I could do this too, but what to do was the question because everything's closed. So I said, well, in college, I used to eat a lot of panini, and people used to call me Brini Panini. So I was like, let me just start making paninis on the internet. Uh, and every day, every Sunday for a whole year. So every 52 weeks, I released a different panini combination on Instagram, and it picked up. It got traction. People were into it. Some videos kind of went viral. And then as soon as COVID ended, I went to work. I worked on the Olympics for CBC, so that kind of halted a bit. And then I worked on Love Island for TVA in the Dominican for 3 months. So I was out of Montreal, out of Toronto. So that really halted my creative social media posting. But I had a social media position where I got 20 million views on a video that I decided to come up with for the show. And that really showed me it's like, okay, I'm getting everyone else around me kind of blowing up over here, but why am I not helping myself? I know it's a niche. I know Montreal's small,
Yeah.
but if I could just tweak it in a way where the networking would make more sense of it than just trying to get numbers, because those numbers could mean nothing at the end of the day. They're empty. You could have a million followers, but if no one knows who you are, who cares? And as soon as I got back, Stevie V from Insieme hit me up and he's like, I want you to go review paninis, because I had done 2 videos, caught everyone's attention. The 2 classics, I did Milano's and Chucharo right away. Everyone was already on it. And then I was getting invited. And then like 3 paninis later, I was getting paid. And ever since I've been like, it's become somewhat of a business passion kind of thing. And now I just help people too. Like I consult for people. I work in it full time at an agency. So it's been pretty cool to see how in a year everything's kind of changed.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing. And, as someone who creates content and I've been doing it for a long time, with Milan Weekly Podcast, and the niche is so small and it's amazing on just it's a combination, right? So like a lot of people say, how do you do it? How do you do it? There's no real recipe to this. It's a combination of luck, creativity, and timing,
Yeah,
because everything has to kind of align for it to get that traction, for it to get picked up by an algorithm and continuously be put out in front of people. So, and I'm happy because you're someone who you knew what you wanted to do. You went to school, you paid the price, and and like you said, you were helping other people. But it was time for Brandon to blow up and to reap the benefits of all this hard work, right? So I
yeah.
tip my hat, because it's really hard. uh, you know Not everybody's gonna like you. That's
Oh, that's for
unfortunately the
sure.
word. That's unfortunately the word that the world that we're in. Everybody's gonna be envious of you, but in the end, you're doing something that you love. And again, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah. No, I think it has its pros and its cons. Like you said, I get a lot of hate comments, but I'm like I'm programmed to make nothing of it. Like a
Yeah.
lot of creators, it gets to them, but for myself, it's like I've trained people to not care about these comments. So I'm like, if I'm the trainee, then I should not be affected. I'm not at all, because a lot of people think my accent's fake. They think I'm putting on a show. This is my voice. This is what it is. This is what comes out of my mouth. I don't fake it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, that's a tipping point to make fun of. Or oh, he's a cafon, he's a chooch, but it's also a character. Like if you know me, I'm educated. I do a lot of things. I have a lot of personal clients. I have my own job. I do my own stuff. Like I do a lot compared to the average person. Consistency is a big key of it. But the pros is like, for example, I have 3 crazy recognition stories. Uh, when I was in the ocean in Sardinia last summer, I got recognized just because of my voice. Someone came up to me, they're like, I feel like I've heard your voice before. Now that was the first time I got recognized, like outside of RDP with Montreal. That was a crazy one for me, because I'm like, I'm halfway across the world right now, you know? And that one was cool. Then I went to the airport. I was going to Mexico. I was just wearing my Italian tracksuit, and this French guy recognized me. He's like, "Hey, tweet till gars des restaurants." I'm like, "That's pretty cool," because now I'm not only targeting Italians, I'm
Yeah.
like hitting up like all of Montreal. But the best story I have for sure is I was at a wedding. I was because I also MC for Gold Star, so I was at a wedding shadowing, training and stuff. And I go to the washroom, and I'm there, doing a number one, and this guy brings me a panini from the midnight table, and he's like, "Bro, I got you. Bello Brini's taken care of." And I was like, "That's crazy."
Yeah.
Like I don't know anyone at this wedding. This random guy brought me a panini, and it's
While you
just
were taking a piss.
I'm taking a piss, and it's like kind of goes to show like how far the content goes. And I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't even follow me. So
Yeah.
that's the part where it's interesting. It's like anywhere I go, I'll kind of get recognized, and I only have little followers.
Yeah.
Like I go on dates with my girlfriend. Every date I get recognized, no matter if it's a Greek restaurant, if it's in Chinatown, if it's at a boxing class. Like, oh, what's the best sandwich? Like that's the first question
Yeah.
I always get, you know. And it's like I'll take it because it's cool. Like like it'd always be cool to be like a key part of a community and to be known for something, you know, and to network. Like there's a lot of guys double my age now that take me under their wing and nurture me to become that entrepreneur and that in the creative field, because it's not easy to make money as a creative entrepreneur. You have to be very creative, you have to know how to sell, and you have to know how to keep people happy with what they're buying too.
Yeah, and constantly entertained, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is I want to get your opinion. You are you're a creative entrepreneur. We're going to bring it back to local soccer, right? So we know that these clubs, some have ventured into the year of 2023, some are still stuck a little bit in the past. As someone who creates content, both myself and and again, if I'm crazy, you tell me. But these clubs right now, they need to use social media as almost a business card, a calling card. It can't be done by a parent volunteer. This has to be done by, like you said, it has to be an agency. There's creative people that have gone to school and understand what it takes, because you could be almost wasting your time. What would be your recommendation to a club, uh, you know, that needs social media help?
Yeah, I'd say you have to invest in social media. uh, I know it's somewhat of free advertising, even though you have to pay someone to do it. But at the end of the day, it's all about clicks and eyeballs. And if you want to run Facebook ads, Instagram ads, it's always an option. It's not that expensive when you think about it. It could cost you $10,000 a year, which essentially could be a write off. Like the good thing about marketing is everything's a write off in this industry. So that's what I always tell people. I'm like, at the end of the day, you take my bill and you put it in your taxes, and everyone's happy, you know. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like people get scared when they have to spend money on things that aren't guaranteed, and marketing is never guaranteed. But the one thing I've always told everyone that's embarked with me as a creative strategist, let's say, I always tell them it's going to take 3 months, but the plan has to be proper. It has to be targeting. In soccer's case, it has to be targeting parents. There's no one else you want to target. You have to target parents. You have to somewhat preach things, promise things, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of make the club look like it's preaching a certain message. Unity is a big one. Development, training, skills, not just physical, but food is a big one that is neglected. I always say it. I would have been a pro soccer player if I ate properly. Like 100%, I would have been a pro soccer player. Like that's the difference between a kid in France at an academy and me when I went there. These guys, they have private chefs cooking for them at the academy, and we don't have that here. And I think that's another system that needs to be implemented. But North America is also North America. But when it comes to social media, like you can't neglect it anymore. It's like even restaurants who aren't on it, it's just a tricky, risky thing. It's like not being on Uber Eats. At the end of the day, I know it's a big lump of change they take, but you're missing out. So you could tell which clubs are on it. It's the ones that every player has a tracksuit, every player has their initials on the tracksuit. They go to 4 or 5 tournaments a year. Uh, Everyone's dressed the same, and that comes down to branding at the end
Yeah.
of the day. And branding is a huge part because I'm wearing the Canada jersey, you're wearing the Italy hoodie, you got Milan behind you. These guys are only famous because we all bought into the brand.
Into the brand, yeah.
So it's like clubs also have to view it that way. It's like, how do you buy into the brand? And when I was at Ryerson, especially, like I was the PA announcer for the soccer team, and I was around the guys a lot. And we had the sickest gear in the league. We had Nike sponsored hoodies. They were comfortable, always repping them. I still wear it to this day, even though it's still not the same logo anymore, because it's just like it means something. There's an attachment to it. So I think even investing in proper gear and sponsorship and the look of things, you want things to look cool now. You can't have that old style look that I had when I was at RDP when I was like 5 to 10 years old.
Yeah,
Sponsorships are important too, so all of those things come into play.
yeah. There is a charisma. There is a reputation and how do you say this? It's an aura. It's the way you're perceived, right? You can
Yeah,
you can be working out of a cardboard box, but you can make it, and it's not a lie. You can make it so that you look like you're an EPL club. It's very easy with social media because perception is everything, right? And like you said, branding is so important. And these clubs now, they have to understand that they're small businesses right now. They're not a soccer club anymore.
yeah,
You can't have a 40 hour a week job and be an important position at these clubs anymore. These clubs, they've gone to a level where people are studying to have a career in one of these non-profit local soccer clubs or academies, whatever you want to call them. So the marketing aspect, like you said, is becoming very, very important. And I wanted someone like you on the show tonight exactly for that, because you are the full kit. You played, you coached, you are a creative entrepreneur. You understand what branding is, and you understand what social media is. It's 45 minutes, Brandon. I think we can talk for hours, and I'm pretty sure we'll have you back on the show. But for respect of your time, I want to ask you just a couple of little fast action questions. Okay, fast. You give me a quick response. If you don't want to respond, you say, "Steve, don't respond." It's okay. We'll take it for another time. So
sure.
I'm gonna ask it to you just for on the record, because I want this on the internet, because the internet is forever. Your favorite Serie A team?
Oh, AC Milan.
There you go. The team that you dislike the most?
It's Juventus for sure.
Outside of Serie A, do you follow any other leagues?
Yeah, the top five leagues.
You have another favorite team?
Uh, Big fan of Borussia Dortmund, the way they develop players. Big fan of Atletico Madrid with the underdog story and once again the unity. Teams like that I really like.
Yeah, cool. You played, so I would ask you, who did you try to copy? Who did you try to emulate?
Andrea Pirlo for sure. I was as slow as him, but my precision was as not as great. But that's kind of where I was at the Andrea Pirlo style.
And your favorite player of all time?
It's got to be Kaká for sure.
If I would have to ask you this question, we're gonna go back to food, and I'm pretty sure one day if you take me on one of your panini tasting contests, because I love paninis, it would be an honor. But if you come home and Brandon, you're gonna have a plate of pasta, is that pasta gonna be penne rigati or penne lisce?
Hmm. Probably Lishe.
Wow, lisce, Brandon.
Yeah.
Don't they taste like goldfish?
Yeah, but if I really had to choose, it'd be a la vodka. Like just nice al dente a la vodka. That's
Nice, nice,
yeah.
nice. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for your time this evening, man. I would love to have you back on to pick your brain a little bit more about social media. A great story. I tip my hat. For the people that have been living underneath a rock and will watch this or listen to this in their car or at the gym, just let them know how they can find you on your social media.
Yeah, so all my handles are at Bello Brini. Very simple. Bello and then my last name Brini. And that's it. TikTok, Instagram is where I'm most active. Facebook's dead, so I don't do that anymore. But LinkedIn too, if you want to connect on a more serious level, no problem. And yeah, that's about it.
Excellent. Guys, I want to thank again our friends at Evangelista Sport. Guys, check them out for all your soccer and calcio gear. They have everything: jerseys, shoes. You go there, it's going to cost you money, but you'll be happy when you walk out of there. And guys, please do us a favor: Milan Weekly Podcast, subscribe to the channel, throw in a little like, throw in a comment. We love to reply, whether it be on the local soccer show, whether it be on Milan Weekly Podcast on Monday, or with Gio and Fabio on Coast to Coast on Wednesday. Leave us a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, guys, and please spread the love, because like Brandon said, it's hard to create content and it's hard to create good content. So if you find good content, show us the love. Follow Brandon and his adventures with the Paninis and Insieme. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on the local soccer show. Ovunque e sempre. Forza Milan. Presidente, take us away.